80 years old. That number sounds heavy when I say it out loud, heavier than I ever imagined it would be. When people hear it, they assume I must be wise. But wisdom is not automatic. It is paid for, and I paid for mine with 30 years of my life. I wasted those years living with the wrong people after 50. When you are young, you think time is endless. You forgive easily. You tolerate foolishness. You believe people will change. But after 50, life stops giving second chances so generously. Every year becomes expensive. Every mistake costs more. And the people you share your space with slowly become the people you become. I learned that too late. The first mistake I made was staying with people who were always negative. Every morning started with complaints about money, about health, about the world, about people who were not even in the room. At first, I tried to cheer them up. I listened patiently. I offered solutions, but they didn't want solutions. They wanted company in their misery. And slowly, without realizing it, I became miserable too. The house felt darker even on sunny days. I stopped laughing loudly. I stopped expecting good things. Living with constant negativity trains your mind to expect disappointment. Then there were people who made fun of feelings. If I was tired, they said I was weak. If I felt sad, they said I was dramatic. If I felt proud of something, they said I was bragging. So I learned to hide my emotions. I learned to stay quiet. I learned that being human was inconvenient to them. After years of that, I forgot how to express myself. Now at 80, emotions sit inside me like unopened letters. And sometimes I wonder who I would have been if I had been allowed to feel freely. I also lived with people who never let the past die. Old arguments were never buried. Old mistakes were brought up like weapons. Even things I had apologized for years ago were reused whenever it suited them. Living like that keeps you trapped in yesterday. After 50, you need peace, not a constant trial of your past. The past cannot be changed, but some people refuse to let you move forward because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Another type of people I lived with were always competing with me. Life was never shared. It was compared. If I was tired, they were more tired. If I suffered, they suffered more. If something good happened to me, they found a way to make it about themselves. There was no room for mutual joy, only rivalry. Over time, I learned to hide my happiness just to keep the peace. And when you hide joy for too long, it fades even when you are alone. Some people drain you without ever touching you. I lived with those people too. Every conversation was heavy. Their fears became my worries. Their stress entered my sleep. They never asked how I was, only unloaded how they were. I carried their emotional weight until my body started to feel older than my age. Doctors couldn't find a cause, but my soul knew. After 50, your energy is limited. Give it to the wrong people and you will age faster than time itself. I also made the mistake of living with people who didn't respect boundaries. My time was theirs. My space was shared without permission. My needs were postponed endlessly. I thought being available meant being loving, but love without boundaries is self-erasure. Over time, I forgot that I was allowed to say no. Even now, I sometimes apologize for taking up space in my own home. Then there were people who believed kindness was something to exploit. They took favors as obligations. They accepted help as entitlement. They rarely said thank you. They never returned effort. I believed patience was strength, but patience without limits becomes quiet suffering. I learned too late that generosity should be met with gratitude, not expectation. One of the most painful lessons came from living with people who were afraid of growth. Any attempt to improve myself made them uncomfortable. New habits annoyed them. New ideas threatened them. They would say things like, "Why change now?" or "What's the point at your age?" Slowly, those words settled inside me. I stopped trying new things. I stopped challenging myself. Growth scares people who have already given up, and they will try to pull you down to make themselves feel safe. I also lived with people who blamed everyone else for their problems. Nothing was ever their fault. The world was unfair. People were against them. Life owed them something. Being around that mindset teaches helplessness. You start believing you have no control, and when you believe that long enough, you stop trying. At 80, I realize responsibility is heavy, but it is the only thing that gives you power. Some people were emotionally distant even while living under the same roof. They were present in body but absent in spirit. Conversations stayed shallow. Vulnerability made them uncomfortable. I felt lonelier with them than I ever did alone. There is a special kind of pain in sharing a life with someone who never truly sees you. That kind of loneliness leaves scars no one notices. Then there were people who stayed simply because it was familiar, not because there was love, not because there was warmth, just habit. Shared routines replaced connection. Silence replaced intimacy. Days passed without meaning. Years went by unnoticed, and suddenly decades were gone. Habit can quietly steal your life if you mistake it for loyalty. After 50, you need people who bring calm, not chaos. The kind of people whose presence lowers your heartbeat instead of raising your blood pressure. People who don't turn every small moment into a storm, who don't thrive on tension, noise, and constant emotional emergencies. At this age, your nervous system remembers everything. It remembers every argument, every sleepless night, every unnecessary worry. After 50, you need people who listen, not just speak. People who don't wait for their turn to talk while you are still sharing your pain. People who hear the weight behind your words, not just the sound of them. Silence becomes sacred later in life, and only the right people know how to sit with you in it without trying to fill it with ego. After 50, you need people who grow, not resent growth. People who don't feel threatened when you change, when you learn, when you outgrow old versions of yourself. People who respect your peace because they understand how hard it was to build. Peace is not weakness. It is something earned, paid for with years of mistakes and lessons. I didn't know that then. Back then, I didn't understand the cost of keeping the wrong people close. I thought companionship mattered more than compatibility. I believed any presence was better than loneliness. I didn't yet know that being alone can feel lighter than being surrounded by those who drain you. I was younger, louder inside, desperate to prove something I couldn't even name. I confused familiarity with love and routine with loyalty. I stayed because staying felt safe, even when it hurt. I didn't realize that safety without happiness is just another kind of prison. I thought leaving was failure. I thought walking away meant I had given up, that I hadn't tried hard enough, that I was weak. I was taught that quitting was shameful, no matter the cost. So I carried burdens that were never meant to be mine. I thought staying was strength. I believed endurance was proof of character, that suffering quietly made me honorable. I wore pain like a badge, convincing myself it meant something. I didn't see that real strength sometimes looks like choosing yourself. Now at 80, my house is quieter, fewer voices, fewer people, but my mind feels lighter. I wake up without dread. I sit with my thoughts without fear. I finally hear myself. I cannot reclaim the 30 years I lost. They are gone, carried away by tolerance, silence, and misplaced loyalty. But if you are 50 or close to it, hear this clearly. Choose who you live with as carefully as you choose how you live. Time is no longer cheap, and peace is worth everything.